Stop hand copying emails. Stop hand copying sales pages. Stop hand copying ads. And do this instead. If you don't know me, my name is Joey. I've been in the copywriting or marketing world, so to speak, for the last 7.5 years or so. My copy has made my clients or the strict copy and strategy, made myself, my clients, my partners well over 70 million at this point. And I'm going to tell you to do something different than what I did when I started. So when I got into the copywriting world, I was told, like everyone else normally is, hand copy sales pages, hand copy emails, hand copy ads, hand copy the stuff that was written and did well, and that's going to make you better. And while I think there is some merit to that, and there is, I think it is a complete waste of time, and it hurts more people than it helps people. Today, I'm just going to walk you through a few reasons why and share some of those things, and then you can make that decision by yourself like a big boy and big girl, and you can decide then if you think it's still the best thing to do, or you want to try another way. So, overview, I think the whole hand copying things is a cop-out. And to realize this and realize why, let's first look at who does it and why they're doing it. So if we're going to talk about that, there's a million different people, right? But you fall into 3 different buckets. One, you're someone who wants to learn how to write copy, and just say like as a copywriter, right? So you're looking to do it as like a side hustle, or just like you already are a copywriter, but you're still new and you're hearing from all these people like they did this program and they taught them to handwrite copy. And like I said, disclaimer, like I hand copied stuff when I first started, and I'll even tell you how I did things later on, and then how I would dramatically change them moving forward or now. And what I recommend other people do as well. But so yeah, I got in and everyone's like hand copy sales pages and this is why. And then, it seeps into your subconscious and all this sort of stuff. And there's science behind it. Yeah, great. But when we look at the groups or the people of why they're doing it in the first place, we have brand new or new-ish copywriters. Look at that. Congrats. You're learning how to write copy. Fireworks. We have proficient, so you're already proficient at writing copy. People assign grade levels to copywriters, I guess. They say A list and B list or whatever. So you might have a grade level of some sort, whatever. And then there's business owners, right? So if we just look at these 3 categories, we have the proficient copywriters, we have the new copywriter, or we'll start the other one. New copywriters, proficient copywriters, and business owners. On the scale of like learning how to write copy, or the spectrum of learning how to write copy. I like to use spectrums because I think everything lives on spectrums. So we have these new copywriters. At that point, like your job is to get really good fast. You might already be doing, like I said, you might already be doing it, or you might be doing it on the side because you want to leave your job or you want to supplement income, or you just like, you already have clients, and you're kind of like in that scrappy stage. At that time, you more than likely have limited resources. Limited resources, I'm not referring to money in this case, I'm referring to the most valuable resource of all time, time. So if you have limited time, hand copying stuff, just say hand copying stuff, is not a good use of your time. It takes a lot of time. So if you're going to you have this limited resource, this scarce resource, and you want to fill it with something that is not going to give you much output or much upside at that time, doesn't make sense. Now, the same argument can be made for proficient copywriters, but maybe you have a lot more time. I have a full day. This is my full-time thing. I can do whatever I want. Great. Do you really want to be spending a lot of time on something that most likely is not yielding a high output? And when I go through the stuff below, you'll see there are a lot more things that you can do for small input, bigger output, which is the goal, especially if we have a limited amount of time. And you're already good at something too. So, like I said, there's upsides to parts of what hand copying sales pages and stuff do. And I kind of share some of like the arguments that people will like tell you to do it. I said they're not bad arguments. I just think there's a lot more efficient ways of doing things. So if you're already good at something, you like that's not going to get you to the next level where you need to be. Instead, some of the things I show you will. And then if you're a business owner, you have a million things to do. You have a million things to do, and it's again, big input. I don't know. I might have said this wrong before. Big input, small output, right? Like big time, effort, and energy in there. I think I might have said that the opposite way before. But that's the way it is. You're putting a lot in and getting not much out. Like you wouldn't do that with your money. I have this investment, right? It's a great investment. You give me $10,000 and I'll give you $1,000. How does that sound? Not $1,000 on top of your $10,000. I'm going to give you $1,000. Like that's what you're doing with your time. You have this time. You're going to put this in. Here's what you're going to get out of it. I'm not taking that investment, and I wouldn't suggest you take that investment. So here's the arguments for, right? I think I cover the business. Like you have a lot of things to do. Copy is not the main thing. You want to get good at copy to supplement and to help with other things. It's the most valuable skill. It's probably not. There's a skill stack that is the most valuable, and it's not just one. So what we want to do, or what we want to look at is like, we'll look at the arguments for, and then I'll just kind of share what I think is the much better way, and said you can make your decision. So when we look at arguments for, people say it teaches flow, structure, and cadence. It teaches you how great copywriters think. It makes you like you'll have a swipe file now. It trains your subconscious. Okay, maybe not. I've seen far more people not learn flow, structure, and cadence by hand copying sales pages because they're mindlessly hand copying sales pages. So the core idea or principle behind it, just write and you'll get better. It's not. That doesn't work like that. There has like in order to learn a skill, there are things that need to be involved in there, which we'll go through, that are not present when you're just mindlessly hand copying shit, thinking like, damn, my hand really hurts. I can't wait for this thing to be over, which brings me to my next point. It trains your subconscious. Here's the problem with this argument. Although it can, mindlessly writing, let me move my little head here, mindlessly writing, or even worse, handwriting in a negative state, this hurts, I don't want to be doing this, when is this done, I just want to get through this, is not conducive to a learning state. That negative state is not conducive to learning. And if it is, you're associating those things with it, which is not what you want. So those arguments are those kind of general parts here, I would say debunked. They're just like, again, not the most efficient way of getting there. So here's kind of my arguments against, are just like things that you should really consider and think about. Speed. We're looking for a big output on a small input. Again, hand copying is the opposite. It's a big input, small output. Just look at the time it takes to do it, and that's not what we're going for. Like, I remember. So I'll just tell you this now instead of after. My routine when I was getting into this, if you don't know my background, which I wouldn't expect you to, because I didn't tell you in this video. I was a health and fitness coach, so that's how I started, and that's how I kind of got I didn't stumble upon marketing. I was forced in there because I had to learn it to grow my business. I actually hated marketing before then. I pretty much wrote a book on this exact thing, but I was a fitness coach. That's what I went to school for. I have my master's degree in exercise science. I was training people for a long time, all different sorts of athletes, all this stuff. And I was like, I saw my friends who had fitness businesses online, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, they can just pack up and go. I was actually living with my buddy Mike, who was Gary Vaynerchuk's trainer at the time. He traveled around with him. Mike had an online business. And I was like, he just still works and does both. And like, he was able to do that. And I just thought that was so cool. And I wanted to do that. I thought I wanted to travel and live the laptop lifestyle. Turns out now I don't want to leave my house. But I got invited to a mastermind, and I went, and they were talking about copywriting. I had no idea what it was. And I was like, I think it's just words. Like, are you talking about words? Because I'm really confused. I think you just talk about your website. It's like, basically. I was like, okay, cool. I guess I have to learn how to write. So I took a copywriting course, and they're like, hand copy stuff. I took another copywriting course, hand copy stuff, along with, obviously, teachings. And I was like, okay. So here's my routine. I would wake up. I think it depended on the day. Like, it could be anywhere from 4:30 in the morning to 5 or 5:30 in the morning, because I was still training clients. And if I had a 7 a.m. session, it took me 30 minutes to get to the gym because I was living in Manhattan. Sometimes I had like an 8 o'clock session, so I'd get to sleep in until 5:30. I would wake up, make my little coffee, come out. I would hand copy a piece of copy. And then what I would do is I would rewrite it for a different offer. At the time, I had my fitness business. So even if it wasn't relevant, I would swipe in my offer and like all that sort of stuff. So I was always, and sometimes I even wrote imaginary products. But the hand copying, it took me 30 minutes to like probably an hour if I was actually going to hand copy the whole thing. So it ended up, I was setting a 30-minute timer, because like, that's all. I was like, I'm just going to, I didn't see the value in it then. I was just doing it because like, I thought I had to. Dumb. And yeah, it was just like, it got to a point where I saw there was, what was actually happening was like, it wasn't very helpful. Eventually I stopped, and I didn't do it for long. And like, I've gotten really good at certain things by following the different process that I'll share with you. So I know some people just hand copy, and like, really, the hard part is really good copywriters share that. Like, guys that a lot of people look up to. And I don't think it's bad. I just think it's like outdated thinking. This is what I did, so you can do it too, versus reflecting, using new experiences and knowledge to be like, you know what, the way I did things probably wasn't the best way. And if I was starting all over, like, this is what I would do. So knowing that, now you know I did it. Let me give you the 3 other reasons, and then like what to do instead. So skill sharpening, learning new skill, sharpening a skill you already have, is a process of adaptation, not repetition. So what that means is, you just doing something more often doesn't mean you're getting good at it. Doesn't. There's you need a signal to be sent to your brain that tells you to adapt. Mindlessly doing things is not it. To give you an example, I want to make my arms grow. Oh, I know, bicep curls. I just need to do more reps. False. Just going through the movement, tensionless, will not make anything grow. So that's zoomed in for like the specific muscle, right? I think that's a kind of analogy a lot of people can get. If there's no tension, there's no weight. You can create tension without weight too. You can squeeze really hard. That is a form of training. But if there's no tension, if I'm just going like this and there's nothing there, that muscle is not going to grow. It just doesn't move. That's like saying the muscles like you walking and sprinting, right? Similar muscles being used. Yes, to a different degree. You're going to get some new ones and different ones, but like you don't get jacked walking. Like it's a repetition of a movement. It doesn't get jacked. There needs to be tension and that signal to your brain to adapt. We don't have that if we're just hand copying stuff. The other reason is passive and not active. Again, subconscious, we're just kind of going through the motions. We're just doing things. There's no signal that happens there. We get significantly more benefit by reading, analyzing, and then either even laterally chunking your takeaways and thoughts about what is to like a new market or a new experience. So an example of this, like I said you in the way that I used to do it, was I would take these things, ideally it was in a totally random different market, like a sunglasses product. I remember I was reading Adweek Copywriting, Joseph Sugarman. It was one of like the first copywriting books that I read, and he has a lot of swipes in there. So I was swiping a lot of those things. And like there's sunglasses and all of like Sugarman's ads that were not related to, you know, what I was selling in health and fitness, but I was like that. I was laterally chunking. So I was taking something from like one domain over here into a completely new one. And you learn really good. You also learn how to make connections. You also like in that case, like strengthen other muscles, like your analogy muscle, and like being able to take something from one industry and bring it to another, which is something that I think has been one of my strengths and what I do. Like this totally random industry that you know nothing about, but I know because I just explore things that interest me. They do this. Let's bring it over here into this industry where no one is doing this, and stuff, you know, has hit really hard. And then the other kind of point here is fragmented thought. So, we know like writing, you write slow. You don't write as fast as you think. So you write slow and you're taking in these thoughts or words. If you're actively like consciously paying attention, you're taking in these things in fragments. And what we know, doing this, like, since these things are broken in, we're not taking in the full picture, right? So we know from like speed reading and memorization techniques and that sort of stuff, when you consume big chunks of information rather than small chunks of information, you get the bigger picture. That's how people can memorize even and like remember things even when speed reading, because they're feeding the input like in big chunks fast. So we have the complete opposite with handwriting. We're getting like these small little granular things, and like you're almost looking word by word at like a really micro zoomed in view versus like getting the big picture. And not even big picture of like the whole promotion itself, of just like the big picture of like what was actually said in the sentence. So, yeah. So when chunked, when we like have those big ones, we get a lot more of senses in there, and you're more likely to store and recall the information. So again, the act of like handwriting doesn't do these things. Like it's not conducive to these things. Can it do it on some level? Yes. So here's the path that I propose, or just maybe you consider to doing instead. So one, just figure out your intention. Like, what do you actually want to learn? Knowing that, where is this? Skill sharpening is a process of adaptation. One thing that I didn't put here, which I thought I did, was it's a part of practice or like skill sharpening that I think a lot of people get wrong, and I did for a long time as well. It's like you start practice with things you already know how to do or things you're already proficient in. And I think the thought, I honestly think a lot of this came from how people were just taught to practice growing up, right? You're just like, whether it's like chorus or band, or you played a sport, baseball, basketball, football, whatever, and you're like, get in, you're like, all right, do these fundamental drills and do this, that. You're practicing something you already know how to do. Things that do not take a lot of mental bandwidth and focus and energy and attention to do. Like, let's take a step back. Do you have more energy at the beginning, and energy, focus, and attention at the beginning of practice or at the end of practice? beginning? Does it take more energy, focus, and attention to learn or to do something really difficult, or something really easy that you already know how to do, that you can almost do while you're sleeping? Dribbling a basketball, or someone who's like really proficient in basketball, like normal dribbling drills. They can do it in their sleep. So doing something at like when your energy, intention, and effort is the high, or focus is the highest, doesn't make more sense. If we know we're going to drain this throughout practice, we want to flip flop. We want to do it opposite. We want those things to be front loaded, the new hard difficult things, and then as that energy is kind of depleted a bit, we're going to work on the other things that, like, again, you can do in your sleep. So the same thing can be applied to like our writing and our writing skills here. We look at what we want. So what are we trying to learn exactly? So like that's that like the 1% we're doing. Now, if you're new, you have to start broad, and you're probably just going to be like, it's not as broad as zoomed out as like copywriting. We're going to go into like a specific part, right? So like email marketing. Great. I'm going to learn how to write email copy, or just email marketing in general. Okay. At the very beginning, you might just need to have like that broad approach, and like that might be as deep as you go. Whereas the more advanced you get, and like the better you are, you're gonna go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into it, and like more specific. So you might go to like, you might chunk down to leads. So like from name, subject line, first 1 or 2 lines of the email copy. You might go to like call to actions, and you are literally just practicing and just getting really good at call to actions. It might be transition, so how you're chucking ideas together. It might be the logic of like the logical argument that you're making, and learning how to properly structure those arguments and what needs to go before the other. It might be like those things. So if you are the more advanced, the more specific you'll be with the focus, the more the newer the topic is, or the just whatever you're trying to learn is, the less experience you have in it, the more general you're going to be. Sport. I don't know how to play a basketball. I'm going to learn how to dribble a basketball first, right? You're just like, well, what do I need to learn how to dribble, and I need to learn how to shoot, right? And then like the better you get, then there's this situational drills and like all this sort of stuff. You're not going to start there if you don't know how to dribble in the first place. You're not going to start. I'm not going to like teach you what is like, these different structures for like proven call to actions in emails if you don't really know what just goes into email in general. So we have our intention, like what is the specific thing that we're working on. Then we want to get into a learning state, which is not negative association with it. We want to be in a learning state, which is you can look into like you can look into like brainwaves and stuff, and binaural beats and those sorts of things. But it's more of like a trance state of some sort, if you even want to go down that path. But it's just like excitement, energy. There's an intention of learning, not like, oh, I'm gonna handwrite some shit. My hand's gonna cramp and it's gonna suck. And then we want to learn by doing. So what I like to like recommend people do is, first you're just like going to read the thing. You just consume the thing. Then you're going to reflect on the thing. So by reflecting, you're actually going to dissect it. You're going to look at like the zoomed out view, like what's the big idea? What's the main thing that they're saying? What's the argument itself of the entire promotion or the entire email of the entire thing? Then you can go zoomed in, line by line, like sentence by sentence, all that sort of stuff, and break down those things. And then that in itself is really good. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? How does that make people feel? What's like the emotional roller coaster that's happening? What is the logic behind their argument? Is the argument structured appropriately? How can I structure an argument like this? What pieces can I take from something I'm working on right now to do this on? All those things. Then, how can I make this better? I think that is a really good one, and it's something that people just ignore. Like, well, this is something that someone told me that I should be handwriting. Okay, great. That doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean it's amazing. Like, it could have worked, but it could have just there can be a million reasons why it worked. There are things that you can be thinking through, like how you can make this better, because this, again, this is you practicing. This is you going back. This is you strengthening that muscle to be able to do that. Because when you're going to look at your copy, you're going to have those things to recall and to work back and look back on to improve. And then swipe it for another offer. So you could even go from like consume to swipe, and like write for another offer if you're like actively working. Now, this is what I really like about this is it's not passive. You're not just like hand copying things for the sake of hand copying things. You're actually getting better, and you're getting better by working on the things that are scientifically and anecdotally proven to get you better faster. So in doing so, you can also create it's less input, bigger output. Like if we just look at the time and energy. Well, it's going to be more energy because you're actually doing things, but that's what turns it from passive to active, and it actually works. But you can like do this. So just say we're looking at an email. You can do this pretty quickly. So like you just read through it. Great, big idea. Then if you want to break down line by line, like if we're looking at like, this is probably, I think that the bigger leverage points for most people is the consumption, the reflection of like the zoomed out, and maybe some of the zoomed in features or pieces of it, and how can I make this better? And then this is where the magic happens, is like actually swiping for another offer. Now, there's lots of different ways you can do this. I have a whole like mental models training of how you can take like one things and turn it into a bunch of other ones. I'll share that sometime soon, but yeah, I think like this is I think it's a path that is much more effective and efficient for people, and I just wanted to share it. So whether you're, like I said, totally new, whether you're experienced and you still have like, well, I have some extra time, like I guess I can hand copy some stuff, and there'll be people who hear this and one, they get offended. I'm not attacking you as a human. I think hand copying stuff is stupid. And here's my reasons. If you don't agree, great. But there's also people like, I have extra time, and like this is something that I know these like really great copywriters are telling me to do. Well, now you can make a decision for yourself and decide if you still want to do that. Great. If you want to waste your time, go ahead. It's awesome. So to wrap things up, if you have limitless time, energy, sure, throw it on the list. Throw it on the list. If you want to do it after you do these things, great, do it. But if you don't have those things in place first, I would not do it. It's just low for me. The benefit, there are benefits. This isn't in here because it's not. So the video can end now, but I'm going to give you a little PS. I think there are benefits to handwriting, and there are. Let me see something. So there might be people who are like, there's a lot of science behind the like actual, handwriting part. And I know. I'm saying in this context, what I would say. So this is the book that I was looking for. It's called Whole Brain Power, and it's a really good book. And I first I got more interested a couple years ago. I had a really bad concussion and was like, what can I do to, learn better and like just heal my brain and all that stuff. And I learned how to write in cursive with my non-dominant hand. So I'm a lefty, and I was like, let me learn how to write in cursive. So I did that, and it's just really cool to see kind of like some of the things that go along with it. So what I see kind of the break in the gap is like people going from hand copying sales pages to like something like this, and like the science and research and stuff there is that link is not the same. I think if you're doing kind of like whole brain power exercises, like mountain golf balls, like learning how to juggle, like learning how to write with your other hand, there's a different benefit there. And if that's the benefit you're going after, you'll get a greater benefit of learning those skills versus saying it's skill learning through hand copying. Really cool book. If you're at all interested in like the brain, learning new things, any of that sort of stuff, check it out. It's pretty cool. There's probably like a cool YouTube video on it too that summarize it. But cool. That's it. Hope this was helpful in some way. If you have any questions, hit me up. See ya.